Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to 9 Rules for Being Human as part of the Empowered Living community. This is a specific webinar and talk all for the Empowered Living community. And so what is the Empowered Living community? The Empowered Living community is all about bringing people together who are ready to take control of their life and ready to move forward and achieve the success that they know they deserve. So, Empowered Living. In this series of talks, our last talk was on how to live empowered. So you can catch that in the Empowered Living community page, and it's there for you to view at any time. But today we're going to talk about our next lesson on the 9 rules for being human. So I invite you to take a moment, grab a notebook, and get ready to hear these 9 rules for being human. I'm going to try to keep this short to 30 minutes, so wish me luck. For those of you that know me, know I love to talk, and so that could definitely be a problem. All right, so for those of you that don't know me, hi, I'm Danie. I am your host for today and the community leader here in the Empowered Living community on expertise.tv. And what I do is I help people move from stuck to inaction. So I help them get clear, get focused, and clear any mental blocks that are stopping them from becoming the empowered person that they were born to be. So I am a success coach and NLP practitioner that really does take the whole person into account and help you shift things so that you can have the life and business, if you're in that field, that you are seeking, that you are searching for. So let's go ahead and get started. That's a little bit about me. You can find me over at beamazing.com. That's beamezing.com. And yeah, I like to hang out there. And you can also find me on Facebook and Instagram at Danie C. Muniz. So Danie C. Muniz on Instagram, Facebook, or you can visit my website and get all the details about me and where I'm at and things that I'm involved in. All right, so let's talk about these 9 rules for being human. All right, so these are rules that we, in many cases, have never really been taught, I want to say. And when I say that, you know, I don't really want to say, you know, never been taught, but it's these ideas that we just sometimes haven't learned, or in many cases just really haven't structured to say, oh yeah, that's right. You know, so today I want to cover these. These might seem like things you might already know. And you might be thinking like, yeah, Danie, I know that. And what I want you to do is I want you to take a moment to just take in the information and think this whole entire time as you're listening to these 9 different rules. I want you to think, what can I learn from this, right? What new thing can I add? Because oftentimes we think we know something, and trust me, I've been there. We think we know something. We think we have it like, oh, I already heard this. I already know these. I read that, or I've heard about that before. But I want you to look at it from a new perspective. You may have heard this, let's say a year ago. Are you the same person you were a year ago? Most likely you're not, right? And if you are, sign up for a session with me. We need to talk. But seriously though, you are different. You have had different experiences in this last year that have changed you, changed your perspective, changed some ideas in you. And so you are approaching this information with a new set of eyes, right? So I want you to go ahead and as you're listening to this, really, really take in the information and think, what can I take from this? What is new? Or if I did hear this before, what new perspective or how can I add this into my life? All right, so here we go. You ready for it? Number 1. Rule number 1. This is, you will receive a body. You'll be thinking, yeah, I know, I'm in it now. Well, here's the thing with our bodies. First and foremost, we're given this body, right? We are born, this body, this temple, this vessel, and this is a place that we get to store all the stuff that is us, right? This is us. Now, we are not our body, but it is what allows us to be seen, allows us to move, allows us to be in whatever your beliefs are, be in this reality, right? So you may not like it. You may even hate it in some cases, but it is yours. Each and every part of it is yours. For your time in this current reality, it is yours. And so what I'd want you to do is I want you to think about, how am I treating this temple, this vessel, this body that is storing all of me? How am I taking care of it? How am I talking to it? How am I treating it? If you're currently looking at it from a perspective of, I don't like it, all right, how can you change it? What can you do to love it more? There was a long time in my life where I did not like my body. I did not accept it at all. So much so, and some of you may know this, that I wouldn't even take a picture. I didn't want anybody to take a picture of me. If they happened to get me in the picture, I didn't want to see it because I hated the way I looked. I hated the body that I was in, which often, in many cases, it was because I really hated who I was, which was not necessarily the truth, right? But it was a place that I was in at that time. So I want you to think about, rule number 1 is, you are given this body. You received this body. How are you treating it? And how can you treat it better? Even better than you did before. All right, rule number 2. Rule number 2 is, you will learn lessons, right? Yes, every single day we are probably learning lessons. I'm sure if you think back, and go ahead and take a moment and think with me. Think back to these past 30 days. Go all the way back into November and think about one lesson you might have learned. You see, what happens is when we go through our days, and you know, if you feel this way, feel free to type it in the chat. If you feel like you've not, looked back on your days, I take the Empowered Lady Bosses through an exercise every single month, and we reflect on our past 30 days. And the reason why we do that is, if we don't stop to look back and say, hey, what did I do this last month? What did I learn this last month? What was I doing? We can miss some really great opportunities that are learning opportunities. I'm a big believer in everything that we do. We can look forward and learn something from it, something that we can take into our future with us, that we can be even better at, right? And so even if you did, like, you had an amazing month in your sales, amazing month in a goal that you were looking to achieve, and, I always look at it as, how can I do it better next time? How can I get even better next time, right? So there's always lessons that we can be learning. The one thing is to first look at those lessons. Look at, what lessons did I learn? You can do this on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis. And as we come up to the end of 2017, you can absolutely do it on a yearly basis, right? What did I learn this year? How did I grow this year? And how can I take this new learning into 2018? So this thing called life, we're enrolled full time. It's this informal school, right? And each day in this school, you're going to have the opportunity to learn these lessons. You may like the lessons, you may think they're irrelevant, or you may even think they're stupid. But trust me, You are constantly learning lessons. So how can you take that information and apply it into the next time? All right, lesson number 3. Ooh, lesson number 3 is one of my favorites. There are no mistakes. That's right. And I love this quote here. He who makes no mistakes makes nothing. If we are constantly worried about making mistakes, what progress can we make? I want you to think about that. You see, there is a growth process of trial and error. It's an experimentation. And these failed experiments are as much a part of the process as the experiment that ends up working. So whether you have failed in this, this experimentation, let's call this, because everything is experimentation, right? We are always testing things and trying things, especially if you're in the entrepreneurial world, or if you're a parent, right? You are always testing and trying new things with your clients, with your business, with your kids. You're always trying these new things, and some things work great, and it's like, yes, I did this. And other things, well, not so much, right? But again, if we look at number 2, we can learn from that lesson. We can learn from what mistake, let's say, that we made. But the key importance here is to know that there isn't a mistake. It is only a lesson. That's all it is. All it is we have attempted to do something. We stepped out of our comfort zone. We did something. We tried something. And wow, look at that. We can try again, right? There's the quote, the only time you fail is when you give up, right? So don't give up. Keep learning, keep growing, keep making mistakes. Trust me, I make mistakes all the time. And every single time, I'm like, okay, what can I learn from this? What can I do differently next time, right? So there are no mistakes, only lessons. All right, that is rule number 3. Rule number 4. Look at her with her wings. A lesson is repeated until learned. All right, so a lesson is repeated until learned. So some of these things you might be thinking like, it's all about lessons, Danie. This is how important lessons are. There's so many things that we do each and every day that whether we're reflecting back on them, whether we're completely deleting them from our knowledge bank, right? Or we're even trying something, that lesson is going to be repeated and repeated and repeated until we actually learn from it. So this is why in rule number 3, I said, this is probably one of my favorites, and in that you must learn from that mistake, right? It's not really a mistake. It's just a lesson, but we must learn from that lesson because if not, it's going to be repeated again. Let me tell you a situation that I was in, not too long ago, maybe a couple months ago, and it was with the 12-year-old, and, she's a 12-year-old. She's a preteen, right? And, this stage in her life, she's experimenting. She's trying things out. She's trying to figure out who she is and what she likes, and she's trying to fit in, and I'm telling her to be different. And wow, to be different as a 12-year-old is, that's a bit of a conflict of messaging, right? And so I was over here, and I've been telling her for years now, like, be your own person, be you, right? Really, really, own who you are. And as she's now 12, she doesn't know who she is. And so I keep, telling her, like, you need to own who you are. You need to own who you are. But at this stage in her development, she has not learned who that is. She doesn't know who that is yet. She's still exploring that, right? And so I I kept saying, you know, she'd come home and she'd be frustrated about something, and I would tell her, like, well, you know, you got to just be you, girl. You got to just be you. And she's just like, you know, and she would get frustrated and I would see it. And then finally, it, you know, light bulb went off in my head, like, wait a minute, hold on. She is in this area of her life where she is developing who she is. She doesn't know who she is. Okay, so then that shed some light on me because I was able to look back and realize, how can I make these conversations better? How can I really get to, you know, the root of what it is that she needs? And it came down to, I was repeating the same thing over and over, and I wasn't learning the lesson. So now I can say, look, I know you're exploring who you are right now. And so when these things come up for you that you feel a conflict with, that you're like, I kind of like this, but I kind of don't, this is the perfect opportunity for you to realize what you like and what you don't like, right? So as, you know, as we are as adults, we are much more aware of what we like and what we don't like, right? We enter a situation, we're like, ooh, don't like that. Don't like how I feel about that at all, right? And so we immediately, you know, pull back from it or try to get ourselves out of it, right? Or if we're in a situation that we like and we're like, yeah, these are my peeps, right? This is my vibe. I love this. That we know, right? Well, you know that because over time you've developed who you are. But at 12, as she's trying to figure that out, what better way than now to be aware and identify what she likes and what she doesn't like, what feels good to her and what doesn't, right? So this is an interesting one because the lesson will be presented to you in different forms too, until you have learned it. So I may have been doing this with the 12-year-old, but I also noticed that I was doing this in other relationships in my life where I was, you know, telling them and not really identifying certain aspects. And I was like, wow, okay. So had I stopped to look at it to say, all right, let's look at all aspects of this, then I can move forward and say, got it. I learned this lesson. Now I know, and now I can shift and adjust and change and make things better the next time, right? So then once you've learned that lesson, you can go on, right? So now, you know, when I have a conversation with her, she's not so much as, oh, again, you know, like she's interested now because I learned that I needed to communicate differently. All right, let's go ahead and move on to rule number 5. Rule number 5. Learning lessons does not end. This is how important lessons are. Let me tell you, these lessons do not end. There is no part of life that does not contain lessons. If you're alive, there are lessons to be learned. So this is just really emphasizing the idea that we are always going to be learning lessons. And by you really taking the time to identify them, and when you look at this, you know, if you look at all of these different rules and learning from lessons, you learn them in different ways, or you learn from lessons in different ways. So I may learn a lesson, you know, because it was repeated to me several times and then I finally learned from it, right? Or it might be I learned from it because somebody else shed a new light on it for me. And now I'm like, oh, okay, that's a different light. That's a different light, right? But if I'm always looking at things as lessons, as learning opportunities to be better, to get better, then I'm not allowing my past. I'm not allowing the things that happened to me. I'm not identifying with a self that I don't want to be, right? I'm looking forward and empowering myself to say, hey, okay, I know that, you know, through this next week, there's going to be some lessons that are thrown at me and I'm going to learn from them, right? That is much more powerful than saying, oh, here we go. Another week. It's going to be another horrible week, or I'm not going to do what I said I was going to do, and all this negative self-talk, right? The Danie inside my head, right? I can listen to that Danie, or I can say, Danie, this is what we're going to do this week. And this is what's going to happen. And that's okay, because there's a lesson that I'm going to learn. So I want you to think about those lessons as we move on to our next rules, these last 4 rules. I want you to think about those lessons that you've learned this past week. This past week. Think about one lesson you might have learned. What can you take away from that? And I'm going to give you a quick exercise because I think this is super important when you're looking at lessons, is close your eyes and think about the last lesson that you learned. So think about the situation. I want you to really get a picture in your mind's eye of that situation, whether it was a conversation, an action, an event. I want you to picture it. And once you get a picture of it in your mind's eye, I want you to step out of it. So what I mean is I want you to see yourself in that situation. What's going on? What's happening? And as you see yourself in this situation, look at it and say, okay, looking at the situation, what can I learn from it, right? What do I see? And based on, what I'm hearing both people say, when I'm hearing the me that I see and the other person that I'm talking to, if that's what it is, or if it's an action, right? The action and me. If I look at the me, right, in that picture, what can I learn from it? Really interesting exercise, and really take in whatever lessons it is that you can learn. All right, let's move on to our rule number 6. Rule number 6 is, there is no better place than here. Yes, it is good to be here. There's no better place than here, because when your there has become here, you will simply obtain another there that will again look better than here. So when we are here, it means that we used to be there, but now we're here. And we can look forward and say, I want to be there. And when we're there, we're still here. might be a little weird to wrap your head around, but think about some goal or some achievement, success that you desire, some place that is there, some place that is in the future. Think about there, okay? So you're currently here, right? In those turquoise hills. You're currently here and you want to be there. Okay, so let's say I have a goal by the end of December 31st to lose 5 pounds, okay? Maybe that's my goal, and so that's my there in the future. And when I get to December 31st and I look at that scale and see that I am 5 pounds lighter, I am now here, right? It used to be my there, but it is now my here. So be here. Know that your here is always now, right? And you will always have a there, which will always be your here. So make sure that when you're looking at where your there is, where it is that you're going, that when you get there, you realize that you're here. All right, let's go ahead and move on to rule number 7. Rule number 7, others are merely mirrors of you. This one is interesting. You cannot love or hate something about another person unless it reflects to you something you love or hate about yourself. I don't know if you've heard this. This is pretty interesting, where we are, the people who we are surrounding ourselves are simply mirrors of ourselves. So, I think I've told this story before. Very early on in my relationship with my love, we had this situation arise. This let's say argument. Let's put a word around it, argument. So I had a really stressful day at work, and I drove in about an hour and a half of traffic to meet him. And, so when I got there, I was not in the best of moods, let's say. I was extremely frustrated. And so, I walk up to him, and, he has his arms open, ready to like give me a hug. And instead of like coming at him with like a nice, loving hug, I'm like, oh, this day is horrible. And I'm just so mad, right? And his arms just start to like drop slowly down. And, he's faced with me all, he was looking for this loving embrace. And I'm like, oh, so mad and so frustrated. And then I go to hug him, and the hug is like awkward, right? And then I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, you're all awkward. And so then he's put into this state of stress and anger and frustration that I pass to him, right? So then, he starts being short with me, and then I'm short back with him. And this ignition has ignited, and we're in this argument, right? And there's simply because when I approached him, I transferred or mirrored, he mirrored the energy that I was giving him, right? So I came up to him and I brought in this negativity, this stress and overwhelm. And instead of, his loving embrace, I was just frustrated, right? It was so, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. I'm sure there's been situations where this may have happened to you, but that's one of the reasons why it's really important to let some of the things that are frustrating you not be pulled in to the situations and the conversations that you have with others. It's one thing to be upset and have somebody, be able to talk it through. At the other hand, you want to make sure that you're putting that in the right situation. Our partners, our spouses, they're there to support us, right? And we've got to do our part and meet them halfway. I'm sure he was looking forward to spending time with his beautiful, wonderful girlfriend, and instead he got this stressed out person who was like, I deal with people at work who are stressed. I don't want to deal with another one, So be mindful of that and be aware that you're mirroring the people who you're around. So if the people who you are around are not the people who have the life or the success that you want, then you might want to think about changing the people who you're around, changing your environment, because those people you're going to mirror, right? So you always want to be around people who are in the area that you want to be, right? All right, so let's go ahead and move on to rule number 8. Rule number 8, life is what you make it. And life is an adventure. Life is love. Life is tragedy. Life is a struggle. And life is a promise. But you see all of those things there, right? Enjoy it, face it, fight it, fulfill it. You have all the tools and resources that you need. What you do with them is up to you, because the choice is always yours. Now, I hear people often say, I have no choice. I had no choice. I had to do it. I have to do this. I have to do that. That is a decision that you make. You make the decision to do something that you like or that you don't like. You make the decision to be in a relationship you don't like. You make the decision to be in a stuck state, to be in a depressed, attitude. You make the choice to not do the work you want to do. You make the choice every single day to do things. It's not that you have a that you don't have a choice. It's that it's the decision that you make. So this is really important because life is what you make it. If you want to have a life that is successful, if you want to have a life that is fun and that is happy and that is growth, you can have that. All you have to do is decide to have it. Decide to have the life that you want. Make it happen. All right. Rule number 9, the last and final rule. The answers lie within you. Oh, look at Yoda. So deep inside yourself, the answer you seek is, and I love this one from Yoda. And, Yoda from, so those of you who don't know, from Star Wars, the Star Wars series, he is very wise in this one. The key is to know that you have the power inside you. You have everything you need inside you. All you need to do is look, listen, and trust. Trust yourself. Trust your judgment. Trust what you're doing. Trust that you know. Trust that you have all the answers, because you do. Now, there may be things that are stopping you and that are blocking you from that. You may have been told as a child that you're not good enough. You may have been told as an adult that you're not smart enough. You may have been told last week that there's somebody better out there than you, than what you're doing. But that is nothing to do with you. That is their perceptions, their ideas, their fears that they are placing on you. It is not about you. You decide who you are. You decide what you want to do. You have everything that you need inside you. So I want you to look inside yourself. Trust yourself that you are making the right decisions. Trust yourself. Look and listen deep inside. Listen to that voice in the calm state. Look and see what it is that you want. Imagine what it is you want into the future and go out and achieve it. All right, so those are our 9 rules. I'll repeat them really quickly for you. Number 1, you will receive a body. Number 2, you will learn lessons. Number 3, there are no mistakes, only lessons. Rule number 4, a lesson is repeated until learned. Lesson number 5, learning lessons does not end. Rule number 6, there is no better place than here. Rule number 7, others are merely mirrors of you. Number 8, what you make of life is up to you. And rule number 9, the answers lie inside you. All right, so that is it for our 9 rules of being human. Our next Empowered Living exclusive event is on December 6th, and that is in person here in the beautiful Pasadena, California. Our next virtual event, just as we are here now, is December 13th, and that is how to start living empowered. We're going to talk all about the AHA method and how to handle situations where you may feel disempowered. So that is it for us today. I would love to hear what insights you have, your biggest takeaway. So feel free to put them down in the comments below, to write a message in our community. If you're seeing this on Facebook and you're catching the replay, go ahead and put a comment down below. All right, everyone, have a great rest of your day. And remember to be you and to be amazing. Bye.